Welcome. We're about to jump into the pretty high-stakes world of top-tier consulting. I want you to imagine you're sitting in a job interview, and the future of a huge company is literally resting on how you analyze things over the next 45 minutes. Today, we're going to unpack the exact playbook consultants use to solve these massive business problems.
Seriously, think about that for a second. A company's profits are tanking, or maybe they want to launch a brand new product in a totally different country. They look at you, they ask for the answer, and the clock is ticking. Yeah, it sounds pretty intense, right? But what if I told you it's not about being a genius? It's about having a system.
And that's really the secret sauce. This isn't about pulling a rabbit out of a hat. It's all about having a structured way of thinking, a set of tools that lets you break down any business problem piece by piece until the solution just becomes obvious. And hey, by the end of this explainer, you're going to have those exact same tools in your own problem-solving toolkit. So what exactly is in this playbook? Well, first, we're going to solve the profitability puzzle. This is probably the most common problem out there. Then, we'll figure out the right way to enter new markets and how to really fuel growth. After that, we'll get into the tricky science of pricing. And we'll finish up with a real classic consultant brain teaser, the guesstimate. Let's get into it. First up, the profitability puzzle. You should think of this like a doctor's checkup, but for a business. When a company is feeling sick, and by sick I mean its profits are down, your job is to be the doctor who runs the diagnostics and finds out exactly where it hurts. And here's the absolute key. A consultant's job isn't to just state the obvious like, hey, profits are down. Anyone can see that. No, you're like a detective. You've been hired to find the one thing that's causing the whole mess. Is it that fewer people are buying, or did the cost of materials suddenly shoot up? Your goal is to follow the clues until you isolate that single root cause, because you can't possibly fix a problem until you know exactly what it is.
And pretty much every investigation is going to start right here with this simple equation. Profits equal revenue minus costs. You immediately split the problem into two distinct paths. Think of a coffee shop. For revenue, you'd look at things like how many customers are coming in and what's the average price they're paying. For costs, you dig into the fixed stuff like the shop's rent and the variable costs like the price of milk and coffee beans. Has one of those specific things changed? That's where you find your answer.
Okay, let's switch gears to our next case. This one is about one of the biggest, most critical decisions a company can make, taking that giant leap into a new country or launching a whole new product line. If you get it right, you can unlock incredible growth. But if you get it wrong, well, it can be an absolute disaster.
So, how do you make the right call? You use this really simple but powerful three-step test. First, you just ask, is this market even worth our time? You look at its size, its growth rate, and how much money you could actually make. Step 2, you figure out the how. Can we realistically pull this off? Do we build everything from the ground up, buy a local company that's already there, or maybe find a partner? And finally, you got to put on your pessimist hat. You ask, what's the worst that could happen? You analyze every single potential risk, from government regulations to, just not understanding the local culture.
Now let's talk about a problem that literally every business on earth thinks about all the time: growth. It's not enough to just be profitable. Companies always want to get bigger, and your job as the consultant is to give them the roadmap for exactly how to do it.
And really, it all boils down to two fundamental paths. You can think of it as build versus buy. You can grow organically. That's the build path, where you work to find more customers or convince the ones you have to spend more. Or you can take a shortcut and grow inorganically. That's the buy path, where you acquire other companies or merge with them to expand quickly.
All right, let's talk about money. More specifically, pricing. Let's say you've got this amazing new product, but what do you actually charge for it? If you price it too high, nobody's going to buy it. But if you price it too low, you're just leaving a ton of cash on the table. It's a really delicate and absolutely crucial balancing act.
And this type of problem is super common when a company has invented something totally new, like a groundbreaking piece of software or a new patented medicine. There's nothing to compare it to, so you basically have to figure out what it's worth from scratch.
And this table right here, this is basically your pricing Bible. It gives you 3 different ways to look at the problem. Cost-based pricing tells you the absolute minimum you have to charge just to break even. That's your price floor. Then there's value-based pricing, which figures out the absolute maximum a customer would ever be willing to pay. That becomes your ceiling. And finally, you look at your competitors to help you find a smart, strategic price somewhere in between that floor and ceiling.
And now for our final case type, a true consultant classic, the guesstimate. Honestly, this one is less about deep business strategy and more about pure, raw, logical thinking.
It's all about being a detective with numbers, especially when you have almost no information to start with.
So the interviewer might ask you a question that just sounds impossible, right? Like, how many golf balls can you fit inside a school bus? And here's the big secret. They don't actually care about the exact number of golf balls. That final number, it's almost irrelevant. What they want to see is how you think. Can you take a crazy, impossible-sounding question and create a logical, step-by-step path to a reasonable answer? That's the real test.
So here's a quick cheat sheet to help you out. You can attack the problem from the demand side. Maybe start with the total population and then narrow it down. Or you can come at it from the supply side, like thinking about the number of stores that sell a certain product. The real key, though, is to break the big question down into smaller, manageable pieces, and this is the most important part, clearly state every single assumption you make along the way.
So there you have it. We've just walked through 5 of the most common, most critical types of problems in the business world. Now, let's just take a step back and see what we've actually built here.
Look, these frameworks for profitability, market entry, growth, pricing, and guesstimates, they aren't just tricks for consulting interviews. They are a genuinely powerful toolkit for structured thinking that you can apply to almost any complex problem you'll ever face, whether it's in business or just in life.
So that's the consultant's playbook in a nutshell. If you found these frameworks useful, if they help sharpen your own way of thinking, and you want to keep adding to that problem-solving toolkit, do us a quick favor and hit that like button and subscribe for more explainers just like this one.
We'll just leave you with this final thought. You now have a set of incredibly powerful tools, the same ones used by some of the sharpest minds in business to solve multi-million-dollar problems. So the only question left is, what problem are you going to solve first? Thanks for watching.